There are some cases that break your heart, and there are cases that walk into your life on a Tuesday morning through a press conference you were not emotionally prepared for and never leave. Today is that press conference. This morning, a sheriff named Marty Sawyer stood in front of cameras in Aiken County, South Carolina. He was wearing pink. His entire department was wearing pink, because pink was her favorite color, because that is the only thing they could still give her. He has been doing this job for 37 years. He has worked murders, abductions, cases that would make most people stop sleeping, cases that follow you home and sit at your kitchen table with you long after they are supposed to be over. And he stood at that podium this morning and said he has never in all of those 37 years encountered anything like this. Not once. Not even close. Because what was done to Javeayah Harris was not just a crime. It was an attempt to erase her. Corrosive chemicals. Deliberate. Methodical. Extended. And when it was over, what remained of a 4-year-old girl who loved Minnie Mouse and chased chickens and said yes ma'am to strangers was poured into a reservoir 2 hours from where she used to play outside until dark. Her name was Javeayah Harris. She was 4 years old, and today the sheriff who refused to call the two people responsible mother and father because he said they do not deserve those words, confirmed that she has been found. Not the way anyone prayed, but found. Tonight we are going to sit with all of it. Who Javeayah was, what her days looked like, what she loved, what she sounded like, what kind of little girl she was before the world failed her, and then what happened to her. What the sheriff said at that podium that broke a room full of people who thought they had seen everything, what the law says is coming for the two people responsible. And the question this case forces every single person watching to sit with: how do you dissolve your own child and pour her into a lake? Stay with me, because Javeayah Harris deserves every word of this. I need you to know who Javeayah was before we go any further. Not a case number, not a headline, not a statistic that gets cited in an article and forgotten by the next news cycle. A little girl, a real, living, breathing, laughing little girl who had a favorite color and a favorite character and things she loved doing more than anything else in the world. Javeayah Harris was 4 years old. 4 years old means you have only just learned that the world exists outside your own house. 4 years old means you are still figuring out what your legs can do and how fast you can run and how loud you can be before someone tells you to quiet down. 4 years old is Minnie Mouse backpacks and cartoon pajamas and asking why about absolutely everything, because the world is new and enormous and endlessly interesting. Javeayah was obsessed with Minnie Mouse. The way only a 4-year-old can be obsessed with something, completely, totally, with her entire heart. Minnie Mouse was not just something she liked, it was hers. It was the thing that made her eyes go wide and her voice go loud and her whole little body light up. She chased chickens around the yard. Think about that image for a moment. A 4-year-old girl, legs pumping, arms out, absolutely determined to catch a chicken that was absolutely not going to be caught. Laughing, probably falling, getting up and running again, because that is what 4-year-olds do. They run toward things with everything they have and they do not stop until something makes them stop. She said yes ma'am and no sir to strangers. Someone taught her those words. Someone sat with her and said this is how we speak to people, this is how we show respect, this is how we carry ourselves in the world. Someone was teaching her. At some point before everything went wrong, someone was teaching Javeayah Harris how to be in the world, and she was learning. She asked to stay outside until it got dark, every single evening, because she loved the yard and the sky and the air and the chickens and the endless possibility of being a 4-year-old outside with the whole evening ahead of her. She did not want to come in. She wanted every last minute of daylight she could get. That is Javeayah. That is the little girl in pink. That is who deserved to grow up. Before we go any further, subscribe right now and turn on every notification, because we are covering this case from today all the way through trial and verdict. Javeayah Harris deserves that kind of commitment, and so does every person in pink who has refused to stop showing up for her. On June 30th, an emergency call went out, and in the days that followed, an entire community that had never met a 4-year-old girl named Javeayah Harris refused to let her disappear quietly. Pink billboards went up along the highway, her face on every one of them. Strangers left candles at a mailbox they had never seen before. Minnie Mouse toys piled up at a memorial outside a house on Hillsborough Street because people who did not know her knew that Minnie Mouse was hers. 60 restaurant meals were driven 2 hours north to feed search crews working through the night. People who had jobs and families and their own lives stopped what they were doing and drove 2 hours with food for strangers searching for a little girl they had never met. 5,000 acres were searched. Hundreds of officers, multiple agencies, 5 days, and the whole time the community showed up in pink, because pink was her favorite color, because it was the only thing they had left to give her. And this week, after everything, they found her, not the way anyone prayed they would. Not running toward them with her arms out the way she used to run toward chickens. Not saying yes ma'am when they asked if she was okay. The way that was the only way still possible given what had been done to her before she ever reached that water. This morning at 10:30 a.m., Sheriff Marty Sawyer stood at a podium. He was flanked by dozens of members of his staff, investigators, deputies, administrators, almost all of them in pink ribbons or pink ties. He confirmed that some of Javeayah's remains have been recovered from Cedar Creek Reservoir in Fairfield County. DNA testing confirms they belong to her. And then he said what he had to say next. He said corrosive chemicals were used to deliberately accelerate the destruction of her remains. He said other tools were involved. He said the process was extensive and deliberate. And he said when that process was finished, what remained of Javeayah was poured into that reservoir. He called the actions repulsive and revolting. He said it twice, because there were no other words. In 37 years of law enforcement, he said, I have never ever heard of anything so horrific. And then he said he would not, going forward, ever again refer to the two people facing charges as mother and father, because they do not deserve those words. A sheriff, 37 years, a room full of people in pink, and that is the sentence he landed on. They do not deserve those words. Now I need to talk about Javeayah again, because the case details matter, the legal charges matter, the investigation matters. But none of it matters more than her. While investigators were searching those 5,000 acres, while her face was on pink billboards along the highway, while strangers were driving through the night with food for search crews, Javeayah was already gone. She had been gone for weeks, and nobody who was supposed to protect her had told anyone. Think about what those weeks looked like for a 4-year-old girl. A 4-year-old who had said yes ma'am her whole short life. A 4-year-old who trusted the people around her the way 4-year-olds trust. Completely, without question, without any understanding that the people who were supposed to keep her safe could be the very people she needed protecting from. She had no ability to ask for help. She had no way to understand what was happening. She was 4 years old, and the people who should have been her whole world chose to hide what happened to her rather than fight for her life. That is the unbearable center of this case, not the chemicals, not the reservoir, not the legal charges. The fact that a little girl who chased chickens and said yes ma'am and asked to stay outside until dark was completely dependent on the two people who failed her most, and she never got to be anything other than 4 years old. Now let us talk about what happened after. Because it matters to understanding the full picture of what Javeayah was subjected to. Both parents have confessed, according to the warrants. But investigators do not rely on confessions alone. Confessions can be challenged in court. What cannot easily be challenged is physical evidence, marks, injuries, a forensic timeline. Dissolving remains and dispersing them in a large reservoir was not, investigators believe, an act of panic. It was calculated. It was a deliberate effort to make sure that even if they were caught, there would be nothing left to tell Javeayah's story except their own words. No marks, no injuries, no cause of death, no physical record of what she experienced, just two people and the story they chose to tell. That calculation failed. Some of her remains were recovered. DNA was confirmed. And now both parents face an additional charge on top of everything else. Destruction and desecration of human remains. Because even after everything, the law still needed a word for what was done to a 4-year-old girl named Javeayah Harris. Now the question that sits underneath all of this, the one nobody wants to say out loud. Why go that far? The harm had already happened. The window for telling the truth had already closed. Every decision after that first failure to get Javeayah help was driven by one thing, terror of being found out. That terror, compounding over days and then weeks, produces decisions that look incomprehensible from the outside, but follow a terrible internal logic. The further you have gone, the further you have to go to cover it. And at some point in that logic, a 4-year-old girl stopped being a child who deserved to be saved and became a problem to be contained. That is the most honest answer this case offers, and it is the most unbearable one. Because Javeayah never stopped being a child who deserved to be saved, not for a single second. She was always that little girl, the one with Minnie Mouse and the chickens and the yes ma'am and the evening light she never wanted to lose. She was always worth saving, and nobody saved her. Here is where the law stands tonight. Both parents are in custody without bond. They now face multiple charges. The primary charge, homicide by child abuse under South Carolina Code Section 16-385, carries a minimum of 20 years and a maximum of life imprisonment. Under South Carolina law, if a judge imposes a life sentence, there is no parole, no early release, no work credits, no path back to the outside world. The destruction and desecration charge adds up to 10 additional years. The false police report charge adds up to 5 more. Stacked together, maximum consecutive terms, the exposure is life imprisonment plus additional years that make any possibility of return to the outside world effectively impossible. The ceiling in this case, as the evidence stands tonight, is a room with no door out. Their next court appearance is September 18th. That is a status hearing, not a trial. A case this complex will take a year or more to reach a verdict. Javeayah's extended family, her grandparents, her aunts, her cousins, the people who loved her and had nothing to do with any of this, are being asked to wait. That waiting is its own kind of grief. The courtroom will eventually say what it owes to a 4-year-old girl who deserved a whole life, but it will not say it quickly. There is a candlelight vigil on Thursday evening at the event center on Shiloh Heights Road in Aiken. Bring a candle. It ends with a walk to the memorial on Hillsborough Street. A second vigil is Friday at Foster Park in Union, near the reservoir. Bring a teddy bear. A bicycle giveaway for children is being organized in Augusta in Javeayah's honor. If you want to do something, go. Wear pink. Bring a candle. Bring a teddy bear. Stand with the community that showed up for a little girl they never met and refused to go home. It will not undo anything, but it is the thing this community keeps choosing. And watching them choose it over and over, through vigils and memorials and 60 restaurant meals driven through the night, is the only part of this story that does not leave you completely emptied out. Javeayah Harris was 4 years old. She loved Minnie Mouse. She chased chickens around the yard. She said yes ma'am and no sir. She asked to stay outside until it got dark because she did not want the day to end. She deserved a whole life. She deserved to keep chasing things and asking why about everything and wearing out her shoes in the yard until dark every single evening for years and years and years. She deserved to grow up. She deserved to find out who she was going to be. She deserved someone to fight for her. And the two people whose only job in this world was to be that someone chose to dissolve her instead. A sheriff in pink stood at a podium this morning and said, in 37 years he had never heard of anything so horrific. And a community that never met her showed up in her favorite color and refused to leave. That community is Javeayah's answer to what was done to her. Not a perfect answer, not a complete one. Not one that gives her back a single minute of the life she deserved, but the truest one this world has left to offer her. People who did not know her name 3 weeks ago now know her favorite color, now know she chased chickens, now know she said yes ma'am, now know she asked to stay outside until dark. They know her, and they showed up in pink. Rest easy, Javeayah. They found you, and they are not done fighting for you. If you have any information related to this case, contact the Aiken County Sheriff's Office Evidence Submission Portal at aikensheriffc.evidence.com. Subscribe. Turn on every notification. Because Javeayah Harris deserves for this story to be told all the way to the end, and we are not stopping until it is.